what Mark sees in the cosmic weather and how we can be navigating these radically changing times together. And I think we have something special to start our journey off today.
Welcome to the journey of the soul.
Lord of the star field, Ancient of days, universe maker, here's a song in your praise. Wings of the storm cloud, beginning and end, you make my heart beat like a banner in the wind. Oh, love that fires the sun, keep me burning. Oh, love that fires the sun, keep me burning. Lord of the star field, sower of light, heaven and earth are full of your light. Voice of the nova, smile of the dew, all of our yearning only comes home to you. Oh, love that fires the sun, keep me burning. Oh, love that fires the sun, keep me burning. Oh, love that fires the sun, keep me burning.
Oh, love that fires the sun, keep me burning. Into the void of space came a cloud of sparks. Into the void of space came a cloud of sparks. Eons passed. A single spark arced off from the cloud of sparks and became your first human incarnation. Remember? Remember when you were everything because you had not yet been something, and then you became something. In the void of space floated a cloud of sparks. Eons passed. A single spark arced away from the cloud and became your first human incarnation. Remember? Remember when you were everything? Because you had not yet become something? And then you became something. And then that spark ignited your first human life. Underneath your personality, inside your history, deeper than your DNA, beneath the compost under the family tree, you're burning. You're burning with the blue etheric fire, the blue flame of selfhood, the face you had before the world was made. You've had many faces since then, and the same spark burns inside each of them. When your soul chose to split off from the group soul and launch your reincarnational journey, you did it out of love. You came from love. You're going back to love, and you are made of love. You are love, coming from love, going to love. The only reason it doesn't usually look that way is for the exact same reason a fish cannot know water. All there is love. You can get love twisted, and you can get love straight, but it all breaks down to love. You can get love boomeranging, pinballing, ricocheting, or you can get love straight, but it all boils down to love. You are love coming from love going to love. The only reason it doesn't look that way is for the exact same reason a fish cannot know that it's in water. Because there's nothing but. When you ignite the soul spark within you, you recreate not only yourself, but the universe. Oh, love that fires the sun, keep me burning. When you ignite your soul spark, you recreate not only your own life, but the whole universe. That spark sparked off from the cloud of sparks to launch your reincarnational journey from life to life to life to this life and on. When the spark that became you first separated from the cloud of sparks, it launched your reincarnational journey from body to this body and beyond. You made that choice as a love offering. You're here for reasons of love. You are made of love. You are coming from love. You are going back to love. There is nothing but love. You can get love twisted, or you can get love straight. But it all breaks down to love. When you ignite the soul spark within you, you come alive creatively. That spark becomes a torch that throws back the darkness of the unlived life. When you ignite your soul spark into a torch, you throw back the darkness of the unlived life. You awaken the sun. You awaken the sun in the sky. You awaken the stars in the night. You awaken the deep depth of love within. In order to get here, you had to depart from the group soul and spark your first incarnation and live and die in that body and go back to spirit and come back again into a new body and live and die in that body and return to spirit and come back again in a new body and live and die and make love and bleed and sweat and laugh and dance and celebrate in that body. And then you went back to spirit and then you came back in this body. When you ignite the spark within you, you burn karma. You burn the fog of mirage that has descended upon the species. You lighting up inside dispels the fog of unmemory, the fog of untruth that has descended on the species, like burning the mists of Isengard. You burn the destroyers of trees away. You burn the machineries of anti-life away. I don't say death because there's nothing wrong with death. It's anti-life that's the enemy. When you light the spark of original creation inside you, you become a torch that dispels the fog of untruth and anti-life that has descended upon the species. It's not money and power that are in our way. It's consciousness that's in our way. It's a delusional consciousness because it lacks love and it lacks compassionate generosity. Once you gain and amplify your love, compassion, and generosity, you throw back the darkness of our time. You inject truth into anti-truth. You inject love into not a love. You inject realness into the illusion. You burn the mists of Isengard. You topple the machinery of false power just by your spark igniting. This is a revolution of one multiplied by many. It is spreading. Here in the summer of 1967, it is spreading. Here in the winter of our discontent, it is spreading. Truth, love, torches, sparks, creative purpose. We have entered the beginning of the end of everything that never worked right in the first place. I am honored to meet you here at the crossroads. The crossroads are sacred. Sacred to Hermes. Sacred to the alchemists. Sacred to Mercury. Here at the crossroads, between all that was and all that will be, we have a sacred council. Welcome to the moment. Welcome to this living moment. Here at the crossroads, between all that was and all that will be, we have entered sacred time, meta time, unbinding clock time, which is why it's the summer of 1967, amidst the winter of our discontent. Because the old ways are bankrupt, obsolete, bogus, dying, and need to be honored, and need to be assisted, and need to be recognized, and need to be released. The old ways are dying. The old stories are bankrupt. The old culture is obsolete. How do I know that? For one simple reason. The old, twisted, corrupt male culture has reached its artistic epitome in Donald Trump. The old, bankrupt, twisted, bogus, blind, rapacious, ignorant, bigoted, patriarchal archetype has reached its artistic epitome in one man, Donald Trump. It cannot produce a better representation of what we're letting go of and what is dying. It's the Donald Trump within each of us that's dying. It's the Donald Trump in the White House that's dying. It's the Donald Trumpness of human masculine ignorance in both genders that is dying. It's the Donald Trump inside Mark Borax that's dying. It's the Donald Trump inside Sylvina and Mary that's dying. The Donald Trumpness, the blind, rapacious, bigoted, recalcitrant, evil, disgusting, fraudulent, patriarchal archetype can die now that he was born in the form of Donald Trump. How does he die? Not with an assassin's bullet, but with bullets of love. Acupuncture needles of love. Visions of music. Oh, love that fires the sun, keep me burning. In the void of space floated a cloud of sparks. Eons passed. A single spark arced up from the cloud and became your first human incarnation. As a love offering. You are made of love. You have a soul spark within you. That spark is lighting the torch that dispels the darkness of the mirage of our time, the fog of anti-life. You coming alive lights up the darkness of the unlived life. You coming alive in this moment links souls on the telepathic Aquarian highway. You coming alive and sparking in this living moment lights the fiber optics telepathic Aquarian multidimensional network. Here in the summer of '67 and the winter of our discontent. I called you here to exist in a truth space. Called you here to share the truth space you exist in with me and the rest of us. This council is accompanied by members in subtle dimensions. Angels, guides, spirits, ancestors. All our relations are gathered at the cusp of ages between all that was and all that will be. We've entered sacred time, holy time, meta time. Clock time is unbinding. Clock time is the archetype of the white rabbit in Alice in Wonderland. I'm late for a very important date. I'm late. Yes, because it's 1790 minus 4,000 divided by extra large 2:30 p.m.'s Eastern Standard Daylight crack up Grand Canyon Trump coronavirus time. Everybody knows that time. I mean, that's just kindergarten time. It's absolute nonsense time, nothing and everything time. So we unbind time because time is the tyrant that insidiously sneaks into your head and whispers all kinds of twisted tales based upon lack and scarcity and fear. Time is also a pretty cool instrument and not just the bad guy, but there's a side of time that's insidious. The way that time is a great ally and asset is the kind of time that drummers are familiar with. It's the kind of time that midwives are familiar with. It's the kind of time that lovers know. It's your own time. It's the synchronizing. It's the entrainment, to use Mickey Hart's terminologies. It's the entrainment where you take two people who have slightly different heartbeats and you put them together long enough in an open setting and their heartbeats entrain. It's the music of the spheres. When we unbind linear clock time, which is a fabrication that took the same amount of time as the pyramids to build. Think on that. It took centuries to build our current version of time. Our current version of linear clock time is a monumental weight that took centuries. The current idea we have that there's this thing called the past, and something begins there and it goes to the present and on to the future. Now that doesn't sound like a pyramid. That doesn't sound like this crazy thing. And it really isn't, because it's actually true. Time does work that way, but what's not true is that that's the only way that time works. Time does originate in the past and move to the present and the future, but that's just one version of the time stream. Making that the only possible way that time could work is like making white men the only species, ethnicity, gender, and race. White men are cool, man. There is nothing wrong with white men. What's wrong is that they're fucking everything, that they're the only ones who count. It's the same thing with time. There's another time that begins in the future, streams to the present and on to the past. I call that reverse linear time. It's still linear, but it's going in the opposite direction. What does that mean? It means that you are the future self of your past. It means that when you open in truth and you light your soul spark, you free your past lives and that little child you were who was having a hard time. You can catch this. You can go back in time and remember meeting yourself. I met my future self emerging from a forest in Stratford, Connecticut with Bob Cole back in 1968. We were walking out of the woods. We'd just gotten ripped on hash. And we were walking down the sidewalk and future Mark and future Bob came and met us. Then, later in my life, I caught up with that point. I caught up with it. And I said, oh shit, now I'm on the other side of what happened back then. Holy fuck, I'm the one who went back there. So reverse linear time means that your future selves, get all of this one, take your worst problem right now. What is it? The end of the world? Somebody has cancer? Whatever it is, take your worst challenge right now and offer that to the part of you that's already gone past it. See what they make of it. Try it on from their point of view. Try it on for size from your future self, because your future self is coming back and saying, Mary, honey, we've gone through that. We've come out of that. Whatever your mind is playing with, Diane, Lily, Gray, Mary, Eric, Sarah, whatever your problem is, whatever your mind is, try it on from the point of view of your future self who's already gotten past that. Because your future self is reaching their hand through your karma, and the fog of our time, the anti-life, anti-truth fog, and saying, hey, come on, let's dance. Come on, let's dance. Let's breathe. Let's be. And so the illusion isn't that there is a linear time that starts in the past and goes to the present and future. The illusion is that's the only time stream. So we have a reverse linear time, and then we have ripple time, where an event that happens at a certain moment, like you fall in love, or you fall in love with a raindrop or earth, an event that happens is like tossing a rock into a lake, and it ripples through past future. An event that happens now changes past future instantly, because it's nonlinear, it's circular, it's holographic, it's globular. Time bends and stretches, and when you depose the tyrant in your head that took centuries to create, like the creation of the pyramids, you free the slaves. You free the slave part of you that's left over from the Middle Ages. The slaves of the emperor who has no clothes. When you overthrow the tyrant of Western clock time inside your heart and head and body, in other words, 97 is not one iota worse than age 17. Do you feel that liberation? 97 is not one iota worse than 17. Right away, we've just canceled the billion-dollar cosmetic surgery industry at one fell swoop. Right away, we've just blown up 39 deodorant manufacturers. Right away, we've put on the funeral pyre 1 million women's magazine airbrushed photographs of Playboy bunny models that every woman is supposed to feel horrible because she doesn't look like them. When you free the tyrant of Western linear clock time inside your head and heart and body, you become beautifully ugly. You become shadowy light. You lose the hyperpolarization of each part of you. Every part of you arrives back from the dead, back from the obsolete stories. You stop canceling your own existence, and your spark ignites into a torch. The journey of the soul is the journey of everything becoming something. Once you were everything. You still are everything, but you tend to identify with something because that's the human way. I know I'm everything pretending to be Mark Borax, but I also know that I'm Mark Borax because that part of you is just as real. The Mary part of everything is as real as the everything part of everything. the Diane Silvina Corolla part of everything is as real as the everything part of everything. Your humanness is real. What's not real is that that's the only part of you. You didn't totally divorce yourself from cosmos to enter New Jersey and San Francisco and Africa and Paris. Wherever you were born, you didn't totally divorce your affinity with everything simply in order to belong to something which ended up becoming your human life. You actually still belong to it all. You are the nova that Bruce Cockburn sings about. Wings of the nova, smile of the dew, all of our yearning only comes home to you. Oh, love that fires the sun, keep me burning. Wow, that's coming from a deep Leo man, deep cosmic Christian, turning around the lies of Christian religion and bringing back the sun, bringing back the fire. Jerry Garcia did it in his own way. Another Leo, the sparkers, the sparks. The journey of the soul cannot be stopped, negated, or distorted. It can be misunderstood, but no one is stopping your love. Nobody can stop your love. Nobody can extinguish your spark. The journey of the soul has led us to this crossroads. Each time you light up with an idea, like a light bulb in a children's animation, each time you light up with an inkling, with a perception, oh my, I never noticed the curve of that hillside in the snow that I'm looking at right outside my window now because it snowed here this morning. Each time you light up with a perception, whoa, how did anyone ever think to put yellow next to purple? My God, yellow and purple. You can get stupefied by the yellow and purpleness of it all, by an idea, by a song, by a breath, by breathing, by a thought. Each time you light up inside, that original spark that sparked off of the group soul lights into a torch of your creative arrival. It's taking the human race a goddamn long time to show up. We are a slow moving turtle race. We are the turtle people. No, we are the slug people. We are the slug turtle microbe people. We're moving at the fucking speed of light and nothing could stop love. It's both. It's not either or. We are fucking slow and we are instantaneous. Instantaneous. Krishnamurti has this beautiful idea. Here's Krishnamurti's idea. We don't evolve incrementally, but instantaneously, like lightning. That's how we evolve. Whoa! Now there's a Scorpio. Now there's a Scorpio for you. Nobody evolves incrementally, according to this idea of Krishnamurti's. We evolve. That's it. Diane, you're out of your karma. Next. Okay, Sylvania, boom, no more karma. Right, okay, Mary. Wow, welcome, the lion of the ages. Roar, lion of the soul, and tear me open, says Rumi. Roar, roar, lion of the soul, and tear me open. Tear my fucking ego apart, rip it to shreds. Because I got a harsh fucking ego, and nothing less than a lion is going to be able to rip that one apart, because I'm like humanity. I'm just like humanity. I am humanity. I have my blind spots. I have my pettiness. I have my feuding in the hills with Marcella. We have our Kentucky feuds. Marcella's kinfolk come from a Kentucky feud. Marcella's kinfolk maintained a Kentucky feud in Appalachia that I have my own version of. At least since Marcella came along 13 years ago, and boy, did we get to fight. And one of the secret keys to maintaining a long-term relationship is to learn how to fight and how not to. Because if Marcella stopped fighting my ignorance and darkness, man, I'd be lost. If the closest unconditionally accepting person to you in your life ever stops fighting, you're in trouble. You are in big trouble, because she needs me to fight her darkness and ignorance as much as I need her to fight mine. And that's a much deeper, richer championship contest of the gods. Arjuna on the field of battle, Sita being stolen away, and Ram riding Hanuman all the way over the ocean to bring back her breath and her body. That's a mythopoetic battle. That's not just a fucking nagging, endless karmic merry-go-round of having inconsequential bickering. That is a bloody, mythopoetic, magical fight with the shadow, a bare-knuckled fight to the finish with my own shadow. So I grant Marcella the power to call me on my shit, because if I don't, I am lost. If I fear and resent Marcella's power to call me on my shit, I am lost. She's the closest one to me. And I suspect she would probably say the same thing about me in her own words. Well, let's see. Are you there, honey?
I am, although you can't see me.
Oh, I can hear you, but I can't see you. All right, I'd rather have the opposite version of that. But, that's okay. That's okay. I'll take.
Everyone hear that echoing over virtual time and space. Ouch! Ouch!
Okay, no. What do you have to say for yourself?
I have to say that it is intense to work out ancestral family feud energy in an intimate partnership. And while those kinds of feuds in the past may not have had a legitimacy to outweigh the harm that they caused, I'm totally with you on the spiritual warriorship of love. And yeah. And what's interesting is the recording just paused for all of that.
Oh, wow.
I don't know why, but I just unpaused it.
Okay, maybe I accidentally hit it. Let me say that again. So for all of what? Even your part? Do you have to say your part again?
Yeah, I'm not actually sure, but there might be more than one recording, so I don't think we have to go backward this time.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'll just further it by saying the one thing that I didn't realize when I chose that desire to be held accountable to my deeper nature and to becoming more intimate with my deeper nature and another's deeper nature is that it would require me to actually hold someone and fight for their light in the face of their shadow. I didn't actually get the counterpart of the equation, and that I would actually have to be as much of an ass kicker to another person as I wanted an ass kicker to help me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Very,
was, yeah, that was the big illumination for me.
very, very well spoken. So when you were calling in the part of the masculine that you needed to really see you and be with you and not put up with your false nature. And what you didn't realize was that you were going to have to provide the same thing for me.
Exactly. I had no idea that what I would have to become is someone who is willing to fight for somebody else's illumination as much as I was willing to fight for my own.
Yes. Aho.
Yeah. And
Well,
that has been ultimately the most powerful part of the choice to want to become a better person for myself, is actually learning that I have the capacity to be that for myself through having to show up to be that for you so that you could be that for me in a way that showed me that I actually have you in me. I just didn't realize it at the beginning of the journey.
yeah. Wow. Whoa. Yeah. Now, when love takes root in the shadows, it ignites your spark. When love takes root in the shadows, it ignites your spark. Marcella being willing to not let me off the hook for when I fall for my own damaged male replica, when I fall for my own scarcity ridden male replica. Marcella's willing, or at least largely willing, ability to meet me in my own shadows and my own darkness has been the single strongest medicine for that darkness within the last 13 years that we've been together. Since that day I met her all naked on the south wall of the warm pool at Harbin Hot Springs.
Who knew?
What do you say to that, honey?
I say, who knew? Who knew? Who knew?
Neem Karoli Baba.
Yeah, I don't have anything to say to that.
Okay. Do you have anything else to say?
I think that our desire to come through what we've been given to come through as human beings born at this time is a powerful force to learn to harness, and that we're actually being asked to learn a new way to navigate spiritual truth and energetics, because we can't just do it in the temple. We can't necessarily just do it in the monastery where we're held and someone is tending to the physical pieces while we grow ourselves spiritually. We're really having to learn a kind of mastery that intimate relationship can fully provide to us in really powerful ways, and all relationship can provide to us. But it does feel miraculous in some ways when we're able to see really just how deep the journey is to want to confront ourselves, and confront ourselves on so many levels simultaneously. Be willing to receive reflection, but not in an unconscious way, actually in a discriminatory way that allows us to feel more deeply into our own nature, so that we actually know where the truth lives in us, and we can actually say, whoa, that's a projection, not a reflection.
Aho.
That's your untruth. That's not me. And that takes a real sort of self-mastery that I think most people are still really developing. So that makes navigating relationship fucking hard, like really, really hard. So my heart goes out to all of us that are really striving. I mean, everyone is really striving right now, I think, to come through a lot of these, places within ourselves. And it just takes a lot of skill development. So, I'm just grateful for the mess and the learning how to clean up messes with forgiveness and strength and a real desire that can actually fuel all the things that have to be fueled right now for us to come through it.
Yes. This is what like our breakfast and dinner talk is like all the time in our house. So you gotta, it's, what happens is we trigger each other's evolutionary chambers of karma and also provide a structure for the person to go through it, like a birth canal. Like Marcella triggers my karma and provides a birth canal for me to come through it and be born.
Hmm. Well, actually, Rowan wanted me to weave something in.
Why doesn't he do it?
I don't know. I don't think he wants to. He doesn't always like to be seen. Yeah, that's what he's saying. He's agreeing with me. He
Okay.
just wanted to offer a bit of a correction.
Okay.
He wanted to he wanted to clarify that it actually only took the Egyptians 60 years to develop their relationship to time and not a whole century.
It took about 60 years to develop the 24-hour day.
He says it took 60 years to develop the 24-hour day, and
Yeah.
and not hundreds of years.
Thank you. Thank you, sweetie.
Thank you.
Yeah. When somebody meets your darkest parts and is unafraid of them and neither runs away from them nor toward them, but just bees with them, exists with them, it models the way that you can deal with that part of your own shadow. Marcella sticking with my shadow through its various changes these last 13 years has helped me to be able to stick with my own shadow. Because I see, well, it doesn't seem quite so bad for her. She's, she's still alive and everything seems, fairly well. I guess maybe my shadow isn't the worst curse in the darkest depths of Mordor. maybe my shadow is just kind of like a shadow. It's like maybe me learning to stick with Marcella's shadow for 13 years equips her to be able to deal with it in some new way. Right now, we are summoned to stick with the shadow of the species and not run toward it nor away from it. Right now, we are summoned to stick with the shadow of Donald Trump and not run toward him nor away from him. Right now, and this is happening through families and families, you are being called to stick with your ancestral shadow and not run away from it nor toward it. Right now, we are jackhammering the sidewalks of artificial existence and getting down to the sewers. Another name for getting down to the sewers is getting down to Scorpio. There is a subterranean network of under tunnels that are flooded with the disowned shadow of the species. Everything humanity puts down and refuses to deal with and own and acknowledge floods the underground network of sewers in our species, in our world. And we can call it Scorpio. With 4 planets in Scorpio in my birth chart, I wasn't given the option to escape from that level of existence in this incarnation. They didn't put enough drugs in my food supply when I was born in Midtown Manhattan in October of 1954. I can't shut off. This is why when 6 of us would trip our brains out on acid and drive from Connecticut to Boston and back, I was always the driver. Because I don't shut off when I'm tripping. I don't shut off when I'm stoned. I turn on. I don't shut off when I make love. I turn on. The moment you learn how to stick with the shadow of our species and your ancestral shadow and all the other various shadows from your past lives and from your relatives and peers and people who tried to diminish you and belittle you, people who broke the law of Leo. The law of Leo states that you shall do nothing to extinguish the creative spark of another. And you shall do everything in your rightful power to ignite and amplify that spark. The law of Leo states, you shall do nothing to extinguish the creative spark of another. And you shall do everything in your rightful power to enhance that spark. When you learn how to stand and stick with the shadow of our species and your own personal shadow, without either running away from it nor toward it, you create an antidote to everyone who ever negated you. You create the medicine for everyone you ever negated, including yourself. The antidote to negating comes from your presence. Arrival cancels karma. Arrival cancels karma. Showing up as the radiant being that you are, including your folly, including your faults, real and imagined, including your things you're holding against yourself or God or anybody. When you show up, when you arrive as the full magical being that you are and can stand in the shadow without caving into the shadow or resisting the shadow, but just being with the shadow, being with the trump, being with all of it, you heal the delusion of our species, a disowned shadow. With 4 planets in Scorpio in my birth chart, I dwell in the sewers. I'm like those urban legend albino alligators in New York City sewers. I'm like one of those dudes, you know. And I had to cross in the subway to go under Queens Boulevard when I was 6 years old because it was a 16-lane boulevard that I wanted to get to the other side. So I figured out I better go into the subway and I can cross under and come up on the other side. Of course I would figure that out. I got all those fucking Scorpio planets down there. I thrive where the junkies and the echoes and the urine smell lives because it's so fucking real. That stink that comes up from New Orleans sewers, my God. If you've ever smelled the stink of a New Orleans sewer, I lay down and I put my nose in the bars because I had to inhale that stink because I could not believe that incarnation included something that was that faded, destined, crummy, composted karma, that karmic gumbo of New Orleans, of like cum and puke and vomit and piss and spit. And when I got home from that walk that night, I found out that I had walked through 3 places where murders had just occurred. But I walked like an angel into the all-night pancake house, where my waitress came over and said, "What you need, hon? What you doing out there tonight? Don't you know this is a dangerous town? Don't you know that? Where you come from?" I came from Connecticut. "Well, how'd you get here? From Connecticut? Shit. Yeah, I hitchhiked." "What? With your long hair? You hitchhiked to New Orleans? God damn. You are either crazy or fucking crazy." And I said, "Yeah, and I got a ride from a state cop." Because in those days, in 1971, you could hitchhike through the South as a long-haired kid and get picked up by a state cop and driven 37 miles and dropped off at a truck stop. And a truck driver picked me up and took me 500 miles, bought me a steak dinner, and radioed for another trucker to come get me after he left me there. Talk about the kindness of strangers. But to know that, you'd have to dispel the shadow of the Deep South being the only racist place in the country. The horrible, bad, bad, bad rebels, the bad, bad, bad South, the bad, you'd have to go into that shadow and stand with it. These people gave me the shirt off their backs. They owed me nothing. It wasn't Santa Cruz. It wasn't Maui or Sedona, where I received the kindness of strangers half as much as Alabama. As I was driving my 750 red BMW motorcycle with my girlfriend Wendy on the back through the Alabama rain, we had to pull over in the middle of nowhere to change to our rain gear and keep riding. We were riding from Santa Cruz to Vermont on my motorcycle. We pulled over to a gas station out in the middle of the country. There were 3 big, fat old boys sitting on the porch smoking cigars. Big, fat Southern dudes. I nodded to them. One of them nodded to me. Wendy and I went into the bathroom. It took us an hour and a half to take off our wet clothes and put on our rain gear. We gassed up and got back on the motorcycle in the driving rain. I fired up the BMW. The red streak rode north. About a half hour later, there's a green pickup truck next to me on the interstate, beeping the horn and flashing the lights, beeping the horn and flashing the lights. I pull over, they pull over. It's the 3 old boys holding up my spare set of keys that I left on the toilet. Where outside of the South will anyone do that? Not California, maybe, some people. The Midwest, the fucking Northeast is a bigoted damn place. I know because I grew up there. The South is the most humane part of the United States. But to speak that way, you have to stand up to the false social warriors, social justice, politically correct Nazis of our time, because they'd crucify me for saying this, because they do it all the time on Facebook. If I dare champion the South, man, I get tarred and feathered. They don't know what they're talking about. So when you stand in your partner's shadow, Your own shadow, shadow of the species, shadow of the ages, shadow of your past lives and your ancestors, without caving in, without running toward the shadow or away from it. All shadows everywhere lose power over you. You dispel the shadow at the root because you no longer become capable of turning against anything, anywhere, including yourself. This is magic. This is a mystery school. This is an ancient lesson. When you stand pat and firm in the deepest shadow, in the hardest place of all to be, and you refuse to cancel your own existence, your spark ignites into a torch that throws back the darkness, and every shadow from then on loses power over you because you're no longer capable of being turned against yourself or anything else. This is what Marcella and I have been doing for 13 years as a project. I report we've had positive results with it and still have a ways to go. Marcella, is there anything you want to say?
I loved how you wove in the Leo law. That just felt really good. Yeah, it felt really good.
I had to do that because of Bruce Coburn, one of my favorite Leos. And I have a lot of favorite Leos. It's the sign that I have more male friends that are Leo than any other sign. And whenever my career was dying, Leo women came along and resurrected it single-handedly. So I bow to Leo. The signs that are 2 signs away from you are your greatest allies. That doesn't mean that everyone born in those signs is a great friend who gets along with you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the signs that are 2 signs away from you are your greatest allies because they're in a general sextile, a 60-degree angle from you, and that's works best with. I'm a Libra, and what I do is reflect people. Libra is the mirror. Leo, especially my male Leo friends, don't reflect anything. They're just way too busy being themselves. And God, that's a relief to me. You mean I get that? I can be like Duncan? Oh my God, I can be like English Mark at Harbin? Holy shit. The stuff they know doesn't have to go through a reverberating hall of mirrors before they actually know it. Like being a Libra, oh my God, holy shit. I'll take a Leo in my next incarnation, God damn it. Because what happens is I'm 2 signs away from Leo. I'm also 2 signs away from Sag on the other side. And the Leo version is that Leo is so close to itself, it can't possibly ever see itself. The irony of Leo is it's not because you're far away from yourself, it's because you can't get away from yourself. Think of a boulder of selfhood. Leo's nose is shoved into the boulder of their own selfhood. That's why they can't see it. I'm 1,000,000 miles away from that boulder and it's reflecting 20,000 other boulders that each hold a piece of me. So I give Leo a reflection of who they are and how the world sees them. Leo gives me escape from always having to reflect. Leo breaks me out of the funhouse hall of mirrors. I get to just be. So the signs that are 2 signs away from you are the ultimate best allies for you. A sextile means that when you're at your best, you automatically catalyze the other one to be at their best. That's the optimal sextile. That's Leo and Libra, Libra and Sag, Aries and Gemini, Taurus and Cancer, Gemini and Leo. It's every sign that's 2 signs away from you. Each of us has 2 signs that are 2 signs away from us. So that Leo law that Elias Lonsdale taught us, you shall do nothing to extinguish the creative spark in self or other. I had to add that part. Each time I repeat these old laws, they morph because my relationship to them is fluid rather than rigid. I don't want to be dogmatic. So I have to always find them all over again in the moment. I forgot that piece before, but I brought it back again. The law of Leo. You shall do nothing to extinguish the creative spark in self or other. And you shall do everything in your rightful power to enhance that spark.
Lord of the star field, ancient of days, universe maker, here's a song in your praise. Wings of the storm cloud, beginning and end, you make my heart leap like a banner in the wind. Oh, love that fires the sun, keep me burning. Oh, love that fires the sun, keep me burning. Lord of the star field, sower of light, heaven and earth are full of your light. Voice of the nova, smile of the dew, all of our yearning only comes home to you. Oh, love that fires the sun, keep me burning. Oh, love that fires the sun, keep me burning. Oh, love that fires the sun, keep me burning.
And Marcella, is there anything you want to add?
Well, that was pretty special. It was pretty special to feel some of what came out of today's connection. So I just want to thank you for that. And I think we should announce our equinox call on Thursday, if before we complete, however and whenever we want to do that.
Yeah, why don't you announce that now?
All right, so we just felt with the whole quarantine piece of what's happening around the world right now, we just wanted to come together on the equinox, which is a time of balance, and host a call for anyone that would like to join us. It will be at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Mark was going into some of the foundational astrology themes, and we're going to focus on the importance of small things. So the way I'm really feeling it is we're just learning social bonding from the inside out, and it starts with us as sovereign individuals and as families, and it does push a lot of buttons to have to come home in this way during a time when we've been sort of seduced out of that way of being. So anyway, we want to come back home in balance on the equinox over Zoom. So we hope you'll join us, and please feel free to share it. We'll get something out on Facebook connected to this post or this video.
Now that's Thursday, so don't go by the calendars. Calendars tend to make every equinox and solstice happen on the 21st, but every equinox and solstice does not happen on the 21st. Every equinox and solstice happens the second that the sun enters the new sign. This year, the sun leaves Pisces and enters Aries at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time, Thursday night, 2 days from now. And so we're going to start our call at 8 p.m. that night, and 50 minutes later, we're going to enter the spring with everybody on the call.
Yay. And the other invitation I also just want to put out is that because Mark and I have been doing this online thing for 13 years, I feel really called to help be the soil for other expression that may want to come forward at this time while people are having to come home and not socialize in other ways. So if anyone feels a real call to help serve kids right now and maybe do some storytelling or Q&A kinds of things, I just want to invite anyone who feels called to help support families that have kids at home that would normally be in school to do some substantial, fun College of Visionaries and Wizards type of activities. Please PM me on Facebook, because I really want to weave something together as an alternative for families that are just trying to navigate all being together again and don't feel supported. I just want to offer some creative, unusual, fun, compelling support for the kids. So just PM me if you're interested in helping to be a content holder and producer of some opportunities like that. Okay, I'm done. Those are my things.
Okay. Does anybody else have something to say?
Barbara has her hand raised.
Yeah, Marcel, do you want to bring Barbara in, or Barbara, can you?
Yeah, I can do that. I got it. Hold on. Okay, Barbara, you are free to speak.
Okay, I unmuted the microphone. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I was intrigued about what you said about the present occupant of the White House, because I have been writing down my dreams since 1976, and I have never had a dream about an occupant of the White House. But I have had many nightmares about him. And so what you said shed light and helped to dissipate some of the fear that I was having about why. So I appreciate that you spoke so vocally about that, Mark.
You are so welcome, Barbara. I'm deeply touched and honored that I could rearrange your dreams.
Well, being a Pisces, yeah, I'm the bottom feeders, as you call us, right?
Yes. Yes, Pisces is the bottom. Almost exactly contrary to the traditional view of Pisces as the most nebulous, ephemeral, foggy, detached sign. Pisces is the root. Pisces is the most solid. Pisces is the most substantial, the most foundational, down at the bottom. Rudolf Steiner is the Pisces who created the system of astrology that I use more than anyone else except William Lonsdale. Lonsdale and Steiner created the astrology and I did too. It was a three-way thing. And so Steiner says that that the imagination is the most rock solid foundational piece of existence. Why? Because Earth is transient. Earth will die. Galaxy is transient. Stars will die, like Bruce Cockburn sings, light of the nova. Every second, somewhere in the universe, a star explodes into a supernova, casting the light of an entire galaxy. Every second of your life, 60 times a minute, galactic popcorn pops. We're living in a giant popcorn machine. 60 times a minute, a star explodes into a supernova that casts the light of an entire galaxy.
Might I also say, having recorded my dreams for over 40 years, that I'm aware now of a shift in the landscape, and I don't know exactly what to attribute it to, but I will tell you, and I find this curious, that it has to do with touch. I've been aware in dreams of being touched by people, animals, things, but now it is as if someone has sped that up, and there is a longer sensation, spinning, things that I can feel in the dream that I didn't feel before. So I'm enjoying it. I don't know what it means. I don't quite care at the moment what it means, but I notice a shift in the dreamscape. And I'm curious if anyone else has.
Hold on, Barbara. Hold on. I'm gonna continue with where I was going with the imagination being the most rock solid thing, and then I'm gonna move into your acceleration. Steiner, a Pisces, says that imagination is the deepest, most structural, foundational thing we have. Because Earth is transient, the universe will die. Everything in the material plane is constantly dying. But in the imagination, through the imagination, you enter the substantial participation in our eternity system. You become a co-creator, a collaborator. That's like Einstein. He also was a Pisces, and he said imagination's more important than knowledge. So this accelerated evolution, I like what Barbara brought in here about things changing now, and I'm also interested in what she was interested in, if other people have been experiencing that.
Yeah, this is specifically that touch aspect that Barbara was talking about, where for myself, I've been entering this new realm of being able to perceive through my body in a way that is completely new. It's evolutionary. And I have interpreted it as, you know, entering the age of Aquarius, that it's opening up this new realm of perception.
Wow. Thank you, Lily. Yeah, so the Aquarian channel of Lily in the Hawaiian Islands, the Hawaiian Aquarian channel that Lily opens up with us, is experiencing some new way of being in the body, some new version of touching the universe, being touched, touching and being touched. Marcella, that reminds me of what you said the other day here, when we were in our ritual, and you said, what was it? Was it concentration? What were you talking about?
Well, concentration as a state of being rather than as a behavior.
Whoa. Yeah, Marcella had this moment where, like, I could watch her change on the spot. She had this moment where she experienced concentration as a state of being for the first time. And this totally connects with what Lily was just sparking. Just this new way of being, this new way of touch. And what Barbara was talking about in the dreams, the spinning, the touching, something to do with touch. Does anybody else have experiences along this frequency or related frequencies? Yeah, Diane.
I just have noticed, I'll say in the last couple of months, I can feel the presence of beings on the other side. And there is sometimes a touch with that. It's like someone is touching my shoulder. So I feel like that's with the veil thinning. We're just receiving more and more help.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel the same thing, Diane. And getting back to what Barbara said, that accelerated evolution, it feels to me that more human souls are alive now in bodies on the planet than ever before. Because there are more people alive than ever before. And because the spiritual allies are swarming to the earth to urge the human species out of its dementia. You know, that's like good old Joe Biden is that other masculine archetype. He's that other archetype. And so if more human souls are alive in the physical now than ever before, and if massive spiritual support is flocking from the subtle dimensions to assist humanity in waking up out of its delusion. And what is that delusion? The delusion that we're anything other than love is the delusion. Sally. No, okay. You're just doing sign language. Okay, got it. You were sending a message, but it was, you know.
Can I just weave in something that someone wrote to the chat group?
Yeah.
Jocelyn wrote, I've been feeling like I'm being touched in bed in the last 2 weeks. I thought I was imagining it at first, but it happened a few more times.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
And that's really happened to me before too. And so I just wanted to echo that, how that works, how the veil does touch through into us in sensory ways.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And that kind of touch is a good reminder of something Aquarians know a lot about, which is Aquarius started making completely different sense to me once I had the revelation that about 90% of your work on Earth, Lily, happens when your head hits the pillow. And when you wake up each day, you're at 10%. Whatever you do during your waking hours is like a fraction. It's like 1/10 of what you're actually doing when you're traveling the astral planes. Right, Lily? Yeah. And when you recognize Aquarius as that, it really restores this perspective, because thank the goddess for you guys who go out there astral surfing all fucking night so that you wake up just about exhausted. It's like, it's like, whoa, man, they're like punching the clock. Aquarius going to sleep is punching the clock in the dream factory. And Aquarius waking up is checking out and going on vacation to buy a loaf of Wonder Bread. It's just, okay, so when you get touched in your sleep, when you're being touched, it's this reminder that these loving hands are mitigating human karma and ushering you into a new way to experience your daily life. So you don't need quite as much amnesia. You don't have to forget that you're everything in order to be Mark Borax or Marcella Eversole. The amnesia doesn't have to be quite so thick. You see, even though your spark sparked off from the spark cloud and you entered the reincarnational ladder, the reincarnational arc and spiral, not all of you entered. And so some part of you has been remaining in high cosmos perspective with a serene vantage point on everything you've ever done. Now think of this. Your higher self never fully came all the way down into your human incarnational sequence. Just enough of it came down. But the bulk of your higher nature is still residing in everything, in indivisible oneness and cosmos. And while your soul resides in indivisible oneness of cosmos, it has the high serene vantage point on everything you've ever gone through, thought, or spoken. Your highest nature has witnessed everything you've ever gone through in every lifetime and everything you've ever done or spoken. And your higher nature is sending you unconditional recognition and support and praise and gratitude for handling the human side of the equation, which means feeling. On the human side of the equation, we feel. We feel here. We bleed here. We orgasm here. We die here. We come alive here. We eat food here. We smell smells here, and we hear sounds. And your highest nature has been beaming unconditional gratitude, support, and praise for everything you've gone through in any life throughout every incarnation down to the present moment and beyond to the future. Your higher self is the exact opposite of the false patriarchal God that religions got hung up on in terms of judging the hell out of you. It's the exact opposite of that. It's the one thing in the universe that can't ever judge you. Your higher nature, your God self, is the only thing that can't judge you. It has no choice but to love you. Rilke says angels, when they walk among us, can't distinguish between the living and the dead. Angels, when they walk among us, can't even tell the difference between the living and the dead. They just accompany your soul. Your highest nature is witnessing the part of you that agreed to ride the karmic merry-go-round a few lifetimes. Okay, I'll come down from everything and I'll pretend to be who everybody thinks I am, and I'll climb the rising and falling horse on the calliope as the music goes round, and I will get involved in feuds in Kentucky and sexual escapades in New York City, and I'll play music on the streets of New Orleans, and I will bleed and cry and laugh and dance and come and vomit and sneeze and fart and cough, and I will be human, and I will not curse it. I will offer it, because I'm more than human, but I am deeply human. I am more than human, but I am deeply human. And there is no killing duality, and there is no shame in being broken. Everyone is broken and whole. Everyone is broken and whole. Everyone who has ever lived has always been broken and whole. Just like you and just like me. It's accelerating now, and the touch of the beyond is coming in the dreams to remind us that, like Aquarians, when we wake up in the morning kind of exhausted, with hardly even any conscious memory of all the fucking places we went, maybe a flash here and there for sure, and maybe even a thread, but no comprehension in the human part of the brain, because it would totally implode, of all that we've been. It's not a punishment. It's not a death sentence. It's not hacking iron ore in the asteroid belt to come alive down here. It's a glory and a blessing and a great honor and miracle. Earth is not the penal colony for all souls who fucked up in past lives. Earth is a great, great treasure, blessing, miracle, wonder. And when I remember that, I come back to deep Bruce Coburnish thankfulness and praise. Lord of the Starfields. Lord of the Starfields. The lion within in our time. You have tremendous help for being real. Now is the time we must refuse to help people remain unreal. Now is the time we must stop supporting the unrealness. Now is the time we got to get real. Right here and right now. What is this world you're creating with me and all of us? What is this love you're bringing down from the heavens? Where is that spark? How can you follow rather than transgress the law of Leo? How can you follow that spark? How can you use everything in your rightful power to ignite the creative spark in self and other? How can you learn to practice and master doing nothing to extinguish the creative spark in self and other? How can you learn to live from spark to spark to spark to spark to spark? Like the supernovas. Imagine how many exploded since I began talking today. 60 times a minute. A star explodes into the light of a galaxy. A supernova shines with billions of star power. This happens 60 times a minute? Why didn't they tell us this shit, man? Wow, that's what we are? You are made of stars, Lily. Literally, Gray. Literally, not just poetically, figuratively. The iron in your blood came from white dwarf stars dying on the other side of the galaxy. The iron from the death of white dwarf stars traveled the way comets travel into our solar system. And they dropped off iron molecules in the newly formed Earth. That's why we have iron in this world, because you're made of stars. Stardust runs through your blood, literally. Stardust. We are stardust, we are golden. It's literal. Scorpionic Joni Mitchell. She didn't even go to Woodstock. She just wrote that song with what Crosby, Stills, and Nash told her about Woodstock. And then Stephen Stills took it and rearranged it. We are stardust. We are. The nitrogen in our world that makes up the atmosphere was seeded into our atmosphere from the Oort cloud, where comets came, unimaginably distant deep space. From the Oort cloud, comets came, and a comet is a dirty snowball. Comet's just a dirty snowball. It's dirty with chemicals like nitrogen. A chunk of ice streaking into our solar system dropped off nitrogen. Anybody have anything to say? Hold that thought while I replace my water. Okay, anybody have anything to say? Hey, Marcella, can you get Lori into it?
Oh yeah, I see her hand just went up. Let's see. Where is she? Oh, there it is. Wow. All right, Lori, you're on.
I just have a short quote from a book that I wanted to get your opinion on. It's called, the name of the book is Gods and Diseases, Making Sense of Our Physical and Mental Well-Being. And it's a couple of sentences. It says, we no longer perceive the action of the gods in the daylight of consciousness. Instead, we witness the gods in our dreams and nightmares, in our hidden or unconscious lives, in our diseases or afflictions. They're off the radar of our awareness, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. They're more rampant than before, and the extent to which we are oblivious of their existence is the extent to which they have control over us. That's it.
That's profound, yes. And that's addressing the same karmic gumbo that I'm stirring here today. That's definitely the journey of the soul. You're addressing the relationship between our hopes and our fears. If you can identify your deepest and greatest hope, you're simultaneously conjuring your greatest fear. Because the minute anything enters this world, says Piscean Rudolf Steiner, so does its opposite. We're the duality world. And so when we disown our fears, our shadows, our sexuality, our ugliness, the things we're holding against ourselves, when we disown that, it gains great power over us. Great power over us. But the way to deal with the shadow is to neither disown it nor aggrandize it, but be with it. Now, God and devil become two sides of the same coin, or one and the same, however you want to look at it. So the polarization is what that quote that Lori shared with the group, it's the polarization effect. Love polarizes in its immature form. It's very adolescent to polarize. The species has gotten stuck in an adolescent stage of development for a long, long time. Since Atlantis. Prior to Atlantis, Lemuria was undivided. It was prior to the division of the sexes. Lemuria, also known as Mu or Eden or Paradise. There was no I and thou. We had no consciousness of each other because we were each other. The stage of humans landing in the earth for the first time was, I don't experience you and me, I experience tree, rock, goddess, man, everything. Prior to the division of the genders. This was the landing. This was the original descent of spirit into matter. It was an experiment to see if the highest energies of all could spiral down in to the guts of matter and rise up again without totally forgetting its origin. This is the human experiment of the eternity system. The first Aquarian age was Lemuria. Aquarians aren't crazy to get to the great future state of a bright destiny for the species. They're not crazy about that because they remember when it was. Aquarius is a throwback even more than a push forward. The memory, the sense memory of oneness is stitched into your DNA because you're human. We are still all one. Like an anthill is one with the ground, humanity is one with earth. We're all one with the trees, the dolphins, Donald Trump, the oceans. Nobody is separate. That's an illusion. The illusion of separation has reached operatic proportions in the karmic theater. Operatic, the illusion of separation. it instantly catalyzes all these cottage industry of other illusions, like we're running out, like there's not enough. It doesn't matter what you fill in the rest of that sentence with. Whatever it is that you're running out of and that there's not enough of, it doesn't matter. It's the illusion of separation. Like as if the world had X amount of love, and if I give Lily 27 units of love, there'll be 27 less units in the universe. It's fucking crazy. It's not some bastard algebra. There's an infinite amount of love. If I give Lily 27 units, there's 27 units more in the universe, not less. It's inexhaustible. So when we turn around there's not enough and I'm running out of karma, even this moment, regardless of where it's leading, yeah, coronavirus, okay, Bernie Sanders and Trump, yes, yeah, deaths of the earth. Come back when you have something, important to tell me. We're gonna die. I know we're gonna die. It's living that I care about. Dying is gonna take care of itself. I don't have to sweat that one. I wanna come alive so I can die before I die, so I can live, so I can draw down that high part of me that knows that everything I've agreed to do here is a sacred offering and a comic buffoon. We are all sacred offerings and comic buffoons. We are all Mother Teresa, Mahatma Gandhi, Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keatons. We're all Janis Joplins and Jimi Hendrixes. We're all everybody and everything. And each of us is completely unique, which is the whole point of becoming human and being transient, because that body never existed before and it won't again. So in each lifetime, you have something old and something new and something borrowed and something blue. In each lifetime, your soul is old. Your soul came back from eternity as an already fully developed being that knows exactly why it's here, what it's doing, and where to go, and who you are. Your soul has no doubt as to why you're here, where you're going, who you are, and what to do when you get stuck. That core part of you is what I created in astrology to identify back in 1987 when I created Soul Level Astrology. I'm here to identify the part of you that knows exactly who you are and what you're doing, more than I could ever know it. If I can hook your everyday normal human consciousness into the part of you that knows exactly where you came from, why you're here, and what you're doing, I've done my job. Because some deep part of you knows that far more than I could ever know it. By listening to you, putting my stethoscope on your chest, I can hear your soul. And then I paint an impressionistic portrait, a soul level picture of how I see you with broad brushstrokes. Because when you see yourself and you wake up and gain presence, the forces of anti-presence, the forces of anti-love, anti-truth have no more power over you. Marcella and I have been practicing for 13 years being with each other's shadow and our own. Being with my own and Marcella's shadow and my son Sky's and Rowan's, neither aggrandizing it nor running away from it, just being with it. This is what we have to do now as the sacred evolutionary art of secular shamanism in the Aquarian age. Marketplace shamanism, secular shamanism. The shamanic art is be with the shadow. Be with the shadow of the species. Be with your own shadow. Be with your daughter's shadow, your mother's shadow, your neighbor's and ancestor's shadow, your dog's shadow. Be with the shadow of the TV shows and the movies and the books. Be with Shakespeare's shadows and Mary's shadow. Be with what you can't be with. Be with what the taboo is prescribing you against being. The big taboo of our time prohibits being. To destroy that prohibition, just be. Just be. Lord of the starfield, burning with that sun. Just the light of your beingness dispels the shadow of non-being and anti-being. Death is not non-being and anti-being. Non-being and anti-being is a half-alive zombie state that keeps getting illustrated in mass consciousness through zombie movies and TV shows. Because that's an oracle, that's the collective oracle of our time. We've become zombies. We've become the half-dead walking species. That's anti-being. That's non-being. Death is not anti-being or non-being. Death is a beautiful gift of the gods that they gave us to soften and mitigate our karmas, so when we get reborn, they don't constitute fully the way we last left them. Death is a great blessing. It softens and mitigates the karmas your soul has accrued in incarnation, so that when you are reborn, they get to reconstitute in a unique form each lifetime. Each lifetime is something old and new and borrowed and blue. What's old is your soul. You've been here before. You're back again, and you know exactly why. Your normal human consciousness doesn't always know that, because we're not always connected consistently with the deep part of us that does know that. What's new, however, is your amazing, miraculous, outstanding body. Your body is unique. It has never been before, and it never will be again after you die out of that body. That's what's new. In each lifetime, there's something old and new, the soul and the body, something borrowed. Your individuality is what you've borrowed from the universe. In return for your soul's choice to depart from the bliss of spirit and oneness, and to re-enter the diversity of matter, existence gives you a meaningful experience that your individual nature is intended to absorb and learn from and grow with. That's what's borrowed. Your individuation is something you've borrowed that Earth has offered you in return for your choice to incarnate. And what's blue is the deep blue violet light of the soul. The deep, deep blue violet light of wisdom. The higher council. The Rivendell feasting. The Lothlorien lights high above the flets in the trees. The high art. The great art, like Lord of the Rings, the battle between good and evil. The great fight for love to become Lord of all. The great fight to restore truth and upright dignity of being who you were born to be. That's what's blue. Any questions or comments?
I just wanted to weave something in here that came to me last night. You know, last week I was talking about how I felt like the last Who in Whoville, running around making my loudest yop that I could to try to put us over the edge so we don't get dipped in the boiling oil. And last night, this other character came to me from a story, and that was Fiverr from Watership Down. And Fiverr, you know, there's a point in Watership Down where they find this society where there's all this lettuce and strawberries and everything is there, and the warren is all built, and there's all these doughs that they can have, and everything seems great. But the only thing is that some of these rabbits keep disappearing, and when they disappear, no one will say anything about it. They try to talk about it and these other rabbits avoid it. They don't understand, they won't talk about it. And so finally Fiverr has an insight into what's happening, and what it is that the farmer of the land they're staying on has traps. And some of the rabbits are getting caught in them and dying, and the other rabbits are okay with it because they get this lettuce, and so it's okay if there's a few casualties here. So I wrote this 4-page thing that was, Fiverr's vision into the night last night about,
Oh, oh,
and just going into that shadow and being present with it.
wow, wow, wow. Fiverr reincarnates through Lily. Oh, wow. Marcella, that's like what happened with you and the mice a few days ago.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely feeling the interweave of the web of life through us.
Marcella and I, during a sacred ritual we conducted a few days ago, Marcella went into a rodent crouch posture, a little teensy rodent. And I saw it happen inside her right when it happened. And she saw it too. We both caught it and saw it for what it was. And I was just talking, about the mice pop of existence, these just little rodents. And later, can't remember if it was it the same day or was it later in the day where you got that realization?
Well, it was the next day because I was really working through fear because it was a clenched position that I could feel my energy body has been in for a really, really long time. And I was doing my damnedest to actually open up through the clenching of the fear in my body, in my deep, deep body. And then the next day I realized that we do so much experimentation on mice that as the small mammal part of us, right, from the evolutionary or developmental cycle, that we're all connected to everything, I just felt really connected to the fear of the mice and just how scary it is that we actually create a certain amount of fear through our modern medicine.
Yeah, and it was also that she was psychically picking up the coronavirus mice that are being tested. She was inhabiting the mice that are being tested in labs right now. And that's why Lily, that's why I said your story referring to Watership Down, which was a retelling of Animal Farm, which was a recasting of Animal Farm. Your story went directly to that ritual experience I just had with Marcella. The sacrificial lambs, the innocence of the species, is what we need to restore. It's a restoration. It's the restoration of innocence, the innocence of the species. We don't need the species' wisdom now as much as we need its innocence. We do need the species' wisdom, but not as much as we need its innocence. Because if you can conjure the knowing vision inside you now that the future is going to be incredibly better than the past, experience pivots and turns round back to innocence. All of history pivots. Everything humanity has gone through pivots when you become innocent. Instead of sacrificing the innocence of the species to the Moloch gods that Allen Ginsberg condemned in his polemic Howl, which gained a free speech victory in the Supreme Court that created the 60s. If it wasn't for Gemini Allen Ginsberg's Howl poem, free speech wouldn't have broken out through the Supreme Court, and you would never had Bob Dylan and the Beatles. The whole 1960s thing was very Libra and Gemini, very Libra and Gemini. Gemini, Allen Ginsberg wrote Howl. Gemini, Bob Dylan freed rock and roll with consciousness. Gemini, Paul McCartney drove the engine of the Beatles. Libra, John Lennon had the vision. He was a Libra dragon. It would have been enough for any other band leader to become not just the best band in the world, but the best band ever. That was nowhere near enough for the Libra dragon of the band. He said, if I've attained the scrutiny of the planet, then what do I have to say to them? If I'm one of the first human beings alive to have captured the audience of the entire globe, I need to fly high as a dragon and say something really that's the right thing. So what did he say, Lily? What did he say?
All you need is love.
That's right. During the first ever satellite broadcast around the world, he introduced all you need is love. But it took a while for me to realize the other part of that statement, which is all you need is love, but it's gotta go deep and it's gonna be tested. I'm finishing the Libra in me is finishing John's statement. He was correct. All you need is love in the summer of 1967, in the summer of love. All you need is love, but it's gotta go deep and it's gonna be tested. Any other questions or comments? The mice that are being sacrificed, the rabbits that were being trapped, the innocence that has been stolen, like that Golden Compass movie that they never made the sequel movie to, the innocence of the children that's been stolen all gets restored when you become innocent. Think of the dawn. When you dawn, when the deep buried sun in your own interior darkness rises, when your creative spark rises, when your compassionate embrace of imperfection ignites, innocence is restored. When you claim the vision that tomorrow is going to be much better than today, you grant your species the great benefit of the doubt that it's going to overcome its own shadow. This is essential. We must grant our species the right to evolve. I must grant myself the right to evolve. Because like you, I'm imperfect, broken, wounded, and damaged, and have greatness within. We each are broken, imperfect, and damaged, and have greatness within. That's what it means to be human. There's no shame in being imperfect. You're going to feel guilt, lust, rage. There's no shame in any of that. When you harness your shadow to grow your compassion for the greater, thicker shadow of the world, your species, when you harness your shadow, it becomes a homeopathic dose of the collective shadow. You swallowed a tiny homeopathic tablet of the collective shadow of the species. so you could create immunity to it from within. The creation of the immunity is not automatic. You have to work at it. And even more, you have to play at it. You have to love it. When you fall in love with your own shadow, by seeing through its illusion, you turn the homeopathic tablet of the collective shadow into a medicine that creates the antidote within. And nobody's anti-life equation, nobody's duality, nobody's fake stories any longer have any power over you, because you unite. A united being has a laser beam focus, a ruby laser focus from that torch that spark ignited. Any other people who want to join the dialogue?
Hey, Mark, I had promised my stepdad that I would meet him for a walk on the beach sometime, and I just wanted to tune in to see how much longer do you think you're gonna go with all this, which I'm loving, but I also am trying to, I need to get outside. I feel like I'm going to die if I don't get outside soon.
Yeah, well, don't worry about it. I'm only going to stand as long as the whole human race turns into our broadcast, so that I can change them. It's only until then. I promise not to stay another second longer than when everybody in the world joins us.
I mean, people are sticking with you. Hallelujah to all of these people. This is concentration as a way of being. This is what I'm talking about. It's how you create density through energetics honing in with focus, you know? So I'm really appreciating this. And I'm also just curious. I probably surpassed my real capacity to stay focused a while back. And do
you want to hand over the host thing to me?
Well, you're already a host.
All right, so you can go if you want to go.
Okay. Do you want me to see if someone else who's on the call can support? So you've got that support. It feels good for me to leave you supported rather than not supported.
Yeah, sure. Who do you think might be able to do that?
Well, I know Sylvina and Lily are folks that I feel really confident.
I don't think Sylvina is on anymore. What about you, Lily?
Yeah, I can give it a whirl, sure.
You want to make her a co-host?
I already did when I had to pee.
Okay. So that's what those rabbits are busy doing. They're all peeing.
I mean, I did. I had to take a break to go to pee, so I did make her a co-host at that time. Lily, can you see that you are still a co-host?
I don't know where to look for that.
If you hit participants down at the bottom.
Yep.
And let me scroll up. Then you should be able to scroll up to the top, and it should say, yeah, according to my machine, I'm a host.
I got it. I see it now. Yep.
Yeah, so you're a co-host, which gives you, I'm going to make Mark the host because he's just a co-host right now. So then you would have the ability to mute and unmute folks. And if you want to move folks into a panelist position, if they come in as attendees, but you don't have to do anything that complicated.
Yeah, don't give her too much. Just have her mute and unmute.
Yeah, okay.
So I just go into this panelists box and then I can unmute people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so Mark.
Yeah.
I'm about to make you a host. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so I know, according to the astrology, I'm your ground, right? I'm roots. So I love you very much, and it's transferring right now. Here it goes.
Okay.
This is safe porting, everyone. I'm safe porting. All right, here it comes. You are now the host, Captain Trips, with your own route and your own rudder. And Lily is your support team. She's standing guard. She's able to mute and unmute. And this is now in your hands.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I love you. I will see you on the other side.
Okay.
Lily, I'm sorry. Did you actually have a question?
No, Gray wanted to say something.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Surf.
Enjoy the beach and surf.
Yeah.
Is what Grace said.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. I was doing a thumbs up, but I forgot this computer doesn't have video, so you couldn't see that. Yeah, we're going to go get our hands in the sand.
Okay, see ya.
Love you all. Bye.
Okay, so does anybody else have anything to say? Okay, then the wonder of being alive is rippling through the soul of the species. The wonder of being alive is rippling through the soul of the species. This is the medicine for the anti-life equation, the zombie people. You can dissolve the zombie people without and within through the wonder of being alive in this ever-changing universe. Hi, Isabel. Guten Abend. Guten Tag. Wie geht's? Gut? Gut. The wonder of being alive dissolves the zombie people without and within. At any given moment, regardless of what's happening in your circumstances, you always have as an option to choose the wonder of being alive. It's independent of whatever's happening to your body in the physical plane or your mind. You can switch on the option of the wonder of being alive because you're this ever-changing being in this ever-changing world. And when you awaken to the wonder, forces in cosmos and earth and subtle dimensions rush to welcome you. Hola, another one arrived. This late arriving, non-arriving, anti-truth species is showing up. Another one came and they flock. The worlds flock to that arrival like 10 million midwives flocking to the birth of a sacred child. All the worlds, all the beings, all the spirits flock to your arrival once you claim the wonder of existence, the wonder of being alive. At this crossroads of the ages between all that was and all that will be, it's a sacred honor to meet you here. My arrival is conjured by your arrival. We conjure each other's arrivals. Lily showing up as Lily can't help but have me show up as Mark. Gray showing up as Gray, Eric's Eric to be Eric. Mary marrying Isabel's Isabel. Each time we show up, we conjure each other's presence, and we send a message rippling through the collective psychic space. It's a good world that's worth showing up for. It's a good world here that's worth showing up for. It has a lot of problems and difficulties, and it is a good world. It is a great world. So worth showing up for. And all the broken problems and wounds of this planet become something different when your presence enters them. Everything broken and fragmented about our species heals when you arrive, because your presence was the missing piece in the jigsaw puzzle. Each time you re-immerse in the wonder of being alive, the world heals. The universe sighs. Ah, ah, oh, 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 this, whoa, this being alive thing. Holy shit, being alive. Fuck, just showing up. This is mind-boggling. This is exasperating. This is orgasmic. This is unbelievable that I fucking exist. That you exist. Whoa. When the sheer wonder of being alive overcomes all the mind's reasons not to, we heal the species of its delusion. To claim the gift of life makes your body sacred. Instead of your body being always contested territory with this faction fighting over it and this other faction fighting back, and the feuds in the hills of Kentucky, instead of all that going on, when you arrive, your body becomes a temple, an instrument, an offering, a flute. It becomes played by the winds of change. Any questions or comments? I'm going to get some water. Hold on to that. Any questions or comments or answers?
It looks like Shay Marie has something in the chat box that says, I see the innocence needed as a mature innocence.
I see the innocence needed as a mature innocence. And that's beautiful. It's the ancient child, the ancient newborn. The mature part is that you've been through everything and you still care enough to want to show up. That's the soul strengthening maturity. In one life or another, you have witnessed or perpetrated man's inhumanity to man. In one life or another, you have received or perpetrated human cruelty and violence. And should you choose to want to show up anyway in the limitless wonder of the living moment, then all that you've been through doesn't embitter you and sour you. It rather opens your heart and floods the world with compassion. What a trip, this being alive deal here. What a fucking trip through the ages. And I want to show up. It's mature because I'm not going to be totally discombobulated when I run into shadow, because I've been there before and I still want to show up. So the innocent part is sweetened by the bitter part. It's bittersweet. It's an oboe. It's the oboe of existence. It's bittersweet. You know, it's the cello. It's the oboe and the cello and the gypsies. It's the gypsy soul wandering in exile, but not really. So thank you, Shea Marie, for bringing in the mature innocence, the ancient newborn. Any other questions or comments?
I would.
Isabel has one.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So actually, I don't know what to say, but I just want to share that I feel like in the last time so much fear and shame, and like it's really like it's just like tons of it like falling or like layers are cleaned, and there is something where I feel I discover my body in a completely different new way. Like I'm making a journey with people, discover how our dreams are connected to our body, and really train through our bodies and emotions how we bringing our dreams in. And it's so different than what I thought. I need knowledge, I need to do a lot. It's really connecting to the body energy, and then I can't even explain because it's very, yeah, I'm just really grateful for this. And it's also very challenging because I feel like a surfer a bit, and then I'm crashing, and then I'm on the board again, and I'm crashing down, and yeah, this is what I want to share.
Wow. Thank you, Isabel. And look how completely tuned into our former wavelength she was before she ever even got on our call. Did you catch that? Did you see, Isabel, what you just said was said exactly with different words earlier in the earlier part of today's talk. It was so beautiful about the new form of touch, about a new way to be in the body, about what happens during the dreams. And when you get this recording, Isabel, you'll go back and you'll see what was said before you said that. And, you know, if I was one of those carnival hucksters, I would have paid Isabel as a shill to like demonstrate to everybody my magic by saying that fucking thing, man. It's like it's like the universe turned you into a shill. It's like
I don't know the word.
a paid person to say something that seems as if it was just coming out of her for the first time, but it's designed to make the magician look better rather than real magic. So this was real magic coming from Germany, man. This is like German magic. Wow. Yeah, because I couldn't have made it work better with what we were talking about before, talking about the Aquarian wavelength, huh, Lily? Wow. All I can say back to that is that I love how you began that with the shame part. Isabel, you were talking about drowning in shame and and fear and shame, and then expressing your body in a whole new way through the dreams and the expansion. It's by being that real with, you talked about layers. These are the layers of shame and guilt that encase the direct experience of the soul, so that humanity gets to experience life with only a small portion of its inner light turned on and a lot of darkness. And then when you wake up, oftentimes the awakening begins in the shame and the guilt and the grief. Because if you can awake in the depth of the darkness without condemning it, without turning it off, or being completely taken over by it, you gain the deepest liberation available to human beings in the physical plane. You've united with yourself. You've fallen in love with the instrument of love that you are. That you've become a vessel. You've become an instrument. And all I can say is that circuit that Isabel was referring to clearly wanted to make itself known inside this circle today. Because wow, are we on that one, those fiber optics. It's just beautiful witnessing you, Isabel. Your process is so raw and real and alive. It just yeah, it just feeds me. Always hearing you talk just feeds me. Thank you for being that real.
Thank you for saying this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Is there any comments, Lily, that need to be shared? No.
I wanted to add one small thing on top of what Shea Marie said about the mature innocence. It reminded me of something Marcella said a little while back, that she has holy hope, which is really different from naive hope.
Yeah. 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 Yes. The cycles of innocence and experience are turning. The wheel is turning once again. And the soul goes through cycles of innocence and experience, of in-breath and out-breath, self and other, polarization and transpolarization, oppositions and trinings. We're trining the opposition, the polarity. When the great polarity of the spiritual perfection of humanity that would wake everyone up to being the love they are is contrasted by the current state of the world as it is, it feels often like an unbridgeable chasm. It can feel like an unbridgeable chasm between the most fulfilling, positive version of the human species, between that future and the deep, dark past and present. It can feel like an impossible stretch. Each individual has their own personal version of that stretch, measuring the gap between what you're capable of and what you've manifested so far. It can feel like a really big distance. Human beings tend to judge themselves harshly for that gap between what they could be and what they are. But when you strip away the judgment and you say that, like every being, you have this perfection nature, destiny calling you on, and awkward feet and clumsy toes, and you slip and slide in the clay and the mud, and it's hard to gain purchase, and the cliff is falling into the sea, and you're scrambling to stay alive, and it's even hard to breathe. And when you deeply embody an authentic presence, even in the sliding down the cliff, so what? You're only going to be alive 3 more seconds. You might as well enjoy it. Yeah, you got 3 seconds. Do you want to spend it worrying? Shit, I don't. Damn it, if all I got is 3 seconds, I'm going to have a hell of a slide, you know, down that cliff. And so since we can't know for sure when we're going to excarnate from this body that the universe has so graciously lent us for the duration of one lifetime only, but since we can't know when we're going to excarnate, when we're going to slip out of that individuality, then while we're here, that gap between the greatest we're capable of and the way we keep insisting on being, it becomes a karma yoga. It just becomes a karma yoga. And that karma yoga is this human stretch. It's the stretch where you get to vertically grow by sinking your torso and your feet deep into the earth and stretching them 3,000 miles down until you land in the core. You get to stretch karma yoga by sinking your feet and your lower body 3,000 miles below the ground into the core of the earth, and stretching your torso and your arms and hands and fingers and crown up to the North Star Polaris. Between that stretch, which is symbolized by the numeral 6, energy from Polaris arcs down from the top of the 6 and goes down the curvature of your spine into the earth, under the earth, curls back up and comes down to meet yourself in your center. When you stretch vertically along the spine of the 6 between the core of the earth and the North Star Polaris, the most constant star in the sky, the one that least ever travels, the true north of your love, the true north of your creative being, the true north of the miracle of your presence, synchronizes Earth with higher spheres, so celestial assistance streams into human folly. Because you've made an offering out of your own folly rather than rejecting it. Because rejecting your absurdity only empowers it. You empower anything you reject. You also empower anything you accept, but it's a little more straightforward. It doesn't quite have that tricky little curve in there. So when you measure that gap between what you could be and what you are without judging it, condemning it, running away from it, cursing it, but just being with it, you bring the light of the North Star down into your crown and spine and sex organs and under your feet and back into the earth and curved back up and around. In the experience, you see and call and own, like Kuan Yin with her hand out, one hand curved toward her breast, the other flat palm extended out. You Kuan Yin existence. You draw your palm of your hand in to hold the sacredness of your experience, but you release the sacredness of your experience with your outstretched, flattened palm, both. And the giving and the taking equalizes. So there's no more stories of unrequited love. There's no more stories of alienation and exile. There's only stories of love twisted or love straight, but it's all love. And the only reason it's hard to know is for the same reason a fish can't know it's in the water. Any other questions or comments? this relationship that's been mentioned several times today already. Touch, dreams, experiencing layers of fear and shame in a new way, experiencing touch in a new way, concentration as a state of being more than an idea, the rabbits and the mice. You see it's the oracle of found art, not just the oracle of the birth chart. It's the found art oracle. You see, I'm using the pieces that different people brought us here today as a kind of spontaneous tarot deck of archetypes and themes. Reading the chart of the world, the chart of the moment, the chart of this circle, instead of just being limited to looking at the astrology part of the chart. So we had this interesting Aquarian thematic moment here where with the opposite of Aquarius, Leo. So to fully enter rightfully the age of Aquarius, we have to handle its shadow, its opposite. Each opposite sign is your shadow, the sign of your opposite. The shadow of our age is Leo, because the age is Aquarius. So it's selfhood. When your selfhood no longer is an issue because you're inhabiting it and you're lighting that spark that sparked off in the beginning, you neutralize the shadow of Aquarius. You're not busy saying like George Harrison, all through the night, I me mine, I me mine, I me mine. All through the day, I me mine, I me mine, I me mine. It's not any longer I, me, mine. It's just arrival. And when you embody your leonine selfhood, and we all have a lion within, when you embody your leonine selfhood, it no longer becomes an issue, but a vessel. It becomes an instrument. You hallow. Your selfhood isn't a big, dense thing of its own because you're better than anyone else. Look, everyone, the great Mark Borax, I have arrived. That's not the kind of selfhood. That's not selfless selfhood. That's self-filled selfhood. But selfless selfhood is I'm here. I'm here. I am. The I that is am. I am. I'm here. I am. I'm here. And so when we embody as the individual beings that we are, we fill up a void, that part of the universe that was destined to be inhabited by you now is. You fill up the place you signed up for when your soul chose to arrive. And so now no one else has to. The universe relaxes. Any questions or comments?
I just wanted to weave back in the one thing we came up with earlier about the dreams and the feeling. When you're saying that when we show up, it fills a void that was destined to be inhabited by us. Then, as you mentioned earlier, and as Diane brought in, these other beings come in and arrive to as midwives. You know, they're like, "Yay! There's another torch. There's a spark. That's a light. Let's gather around that and allow it to be."
Yes, that's right. It's a medicine circle. It's very similar to an ayahuasca medicine circle. We brought our water and our blankets and we've gathered in a circle and we haven't ever met before, everyone like this. And here we enter the dream space individually in communion. We enter the individual dream space in communion with others. So this is a new form of relationship. If I want to reach Isabel, it's not going to be at the expense of inhabiting Mark Borax, right? I'm going to inhabit Mark Borax in a way that aims itself at Isabel. I'm going to channel Mark Borax in that direction and invite her to meet me by meeting herself. Here's relationship where as we meet, you becoming more of who you are catalyzes me to become more of who I am. Now there's a win-win situation. You know, there's an antidote to the dilemma. Wow, is that how relationship works? Well, I believe it is. I believe that is how relationship works. But you have to dare yourself to believe that and try it on and see what happens. What if every inch more of Isabel you become, it conjures in a further inch of me being Mark Borax? Whoa, how cool is that? Wow, that's spiritual outlaws in Sherwood Forest, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. Wow. I mean, everyone in the world, the more they actually become authentic and simply be who they are, it spreads like wildfire from spark to spark. If that's true, then when you release the medicine inside you, which is your existence is your medicine. Your life is an art. When you release the art of being you, and that becomes your gift and your offering. When your presence becomes your gift, when that's all you're here to give is being yourself, you let yourself off the hook from needing to do it any other way than that. You get to do this life your way. That's your right. That's your birthright. That your body inherited in return for choosing to incarnate. You get to be who you are in this life. Now, you get to be who you are. Here, always. You get to be who you are. You that is. You are a microcosm of the macrocosm. The universe is inside you equally to how much it's outside you. If you could take the universe inside you and measure it, put it up on a movie screen, it'd be the size of the universe. You're equal to the whole universe. You have a cosmos inside you, exactly equivalent to the one outside you. This is the entire basis of astrology and acupuncture and acupressure and iridology. As above, so below. When the fact that you carry a universe inside you becomes just what is, rather than some incredible, daunting problem or impossible fantasy, when you get right with your inner universe, this crazy, multidimensional, hologram that you carry around inside you, there are so many more corridors of yourself to explore. Endless corridors of self to explore. Wow, think of you. Think of the being that you are. Who the hell else ever thinks that way? Show me another woman or man who thinks that way. I dare you. You are unique. Nobody thinks that way. Show me someone else who's gone through what you've gone through. I dare you. Nobody's gone through what you've gone through. That's a one-of-a-kind event. Your existence is a one-of-a-kind event. It's more than once in a lifetime. It's once in an eternity. You, the event of your existence, is so worth celebrating. That's why Rumi says, come, come, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Even if you've broken your vow 1,000 times, come, come, and yet again, come. Rumi is inviting you to the pageant of being alive as the unique changing being you are. Even if you've broken your vows 1,000 times, come, come, still, and again, come. Any final questions and comments? We're entering the final zone. I'm only going to be broadcasting for another 20,000 years, and I'm advising you now that this is the final zone. That other 20,000 years is over. I'm fucking done, man. I am done with that 20,000. Now we are entering the final 20,000 years of my broadcast. So you better speak quick or forever hold your peace.
Can always surf, ride that wave, ride the wave of life.
I got it, brother.
Fall off, get back on the board.
I'm on it. We've all become tsunami surfers. Surfing tsunamis of quarantine. Quarantine. That means we've been exonerated from the false world. We've been kicked out of falsehood and anti-truth and anti-life. We've been quarantined in the real world. We're culling our sparks. We're blowing on the embers. Even those of us who have their nose to the scorpionic sewers of New Orleans. Even in the stink, we're coming alive with blessing and miracle and wonder. All right, I'm gonna do one more Bruce Coburn because I just have to.
Lord of the star fields, Ancient of days, universe maker, here's a song in your praise. Wings of the storm cloud, beginning and end. You make my heart leap like a banner in the wind. Oh, love that fires the sun, keep me burning. Oh, love that fires the sun, keep me burning. Lord of the star field, sower of light, heaven and earth are full of your light. Voice of the nova, smile of the dew, all of our yearning only comes home to you. Oh, love that fires the sun, keep me burning. Oh, love that fires the sun, keep me burning. Oh, love that fires the sun, keep me burning.
Any final things that anybody wants to add?
May we spark each other alive.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, let's restore the law of Leo throughout the land. Let's not do anything to extinguish the spark of creativity. Let's do everything we can to amplify that spark. Your soul chose to be here at this changing of the guard, here at the sacred crossroads, and I'm honored to participate with you. What an extraordinary circumstance that we ended up here now, together. Thank you. Thank you for joining the Cosmic Weather Report live. The journey of the soul Tuesday, March 17th. Year of the rat, year of the mice and rabbits, the beautiful start of a new world, the bittersweet ending of an old way of being. I'm honored to accompany you in this journey, this celebration. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
See you Thursday. See you
Yep.
Thursday.
Yeah, we're meeting, limited to 100 people, 8 p.m. Eastern in 2 days from now for our equinox call, The Importance of Small Things. Hope to see you there. Take care, everyone.
Love.
Love, yeah.
Aloha. Thank you. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, everyone.
See you soon.